Obi-Wan Kenobi was one of the greatest threats, one of the greatest thorns in the Emperor's side. A Jedi Master who dispatched and embarrassed some of Palpatine's greatest allies and weapons. From the very beginning of Naboo with Darth Maul, when Kenobi managed to defeat the Sith Apprentice, an event that nearly 2 decades later Palpatine would ponder on and call a legitimate loss to the cause of the Sith, a loss that the Dark Lord was not expecting. Later, he would send General Grievous to kill the Jedi Master on more than one occasion, and every single time, when Grievous's might would triumph over other Jedi, he would always fail against General Kenobi, and in the end, it would be by Obi-Wan's hand that General Grievous would be defeated. Still though, Sidious only considered the Jedi to be a mere annoyance. If anything, when speaking with Dooku, it is clear that Palpatine is somewhat concerned about Obi-Wan Kenobi, but not in the way that someone would think. He doesn't fear Obi-Wan's power, his influence over the rest of the galaxy, or the Jedi Council. He thinks of him nothing more than an arrogant, weak-minded Jedi. To Palpatine, Kenobi is simply one of the thousands of Jedi that rule and populate the galaxy. Unlike individuals such as Mace Windu and Yoda, Palpatine does not hold any semblance of respect for Obi-Wan Kenobi, any semblance of fear for Kenobi, that is, until Mustafar. But even beyond Mustafar, Palpatine only viewed Obi-Wan as an annoyance, never a true rival. Unlike Yoda, who he always considered to be a true rival, and who he respected the power of, Palpatine never seems to respect Kenobi enough to go after him and handle him directly, even though Kenobi has proved to be more of a foil to the Sith's plans than Yoda ever did. So why is this? And what is the transformation of Obi-Wan's beliefs when it comes to General Kenobi? Again, he always viewed Kenobi as one of the masses, someone that was weak and even arrogant, who his own power eclipsed so heavily that he was a mere annoyance if anything, someone that did not deserve his direct attention. Only true rivals deserved his attention, individuals like Maul, who was claiming to be a Sith, but who Palpatine claimed was false, someone who held information about his grand plan. Individuals like Mace Windu, one of the greatest fighters in the Jedi Order's history, and of course, Grandmaster Yoda, the epitome of the light side of the Force, the light to Sidious's dark. But always, Kenobi was a throwaway thought, a non-issue. In the beginning, Palpatine feared that killing Obi-Wan outright would only draw Anakin Skywalker close to the Jedi Code and the Jedi path. In the beginning of the Clone War, he always assumed that if Kenobi were to die, this would be Anakin's anchoring to the light side of the Force. But as the war went on, Palpatine's opinion would change. He would see how much Anakin Skywalker enjoyed battle, and how often he would indulge in the dark side in secret for revenge. It was because of this that Palpatine only cared for Obi-Wan in respects to what it meant about being able to get to Anakin. He believed that at the time of Revenge of the Sith, that Kenobi needed to be killed. To Palpatine, his belief was, if anyone could convince Anakin to remain a Jedi, it would be Obi-Wan. But his opinion on the Jedi Master would drastically change after Mustafar, and for the first time ever, Palpatine would acknowledge the bones left in Kenobi's wake, the many times that the Jedi Master had foiled his plans. Palpatine said that the Jedi had gone to Mustafar with such resolve and such focus that, as we've talked about before on the channel, if the Jedi had fought Palpatine with that same resolve, he would have utterly lost to them. Kenobi fought as a true Jedi did that day, completely balanced, and because of that, he was able to defeat the unbalanced Anakin. But even after Kenobi proves himself to be a massive threat, Palpatine goes out of his way not to pursue Obi-Wan. Why is this? Well, in truth, he still considers him to be weak, and if anything, deep down, he views Anakin's defeat as more of a failure on Anakin's part than a triumph on Kenobi's. But again, Kenobi would prove to be a thorn in Palpatine's side, but not in the way that you would anticipate, much like in the beginning of their relationship. Palpatine was a thorn because even after Mustafar, he continued to impede Vader's advancements in the dark side. Because of his defeat at the hands of Kenobi, Darth Vader became obsessed with butchering Jedi, proving that he was superior to them. And above all else, he desired to prove his superiority to Kenobi. But to Palpatine, this proved to be a massive issue. This was revenge that Anakin Skywalker sought. It was Anakin's goal to destroy Kenobi utterly. It was not Darth Vader. Palpatine wanted to instill in Vader the same sense that he had for the Jedi, that they were worthless now, not worth his time. And yet, For Vader to focus and obsess on something lesser than himself only diminished his status as a Sith Lord, and Palpatine knew it. Again, Kenobi was a thorn, but a thorn because of Vader's obsession over him. An obsession that would last for 2 decades. Although Sidious did note that he was glad that Anakin Skywalker no longer felt a strong attachment to Kenobi, as Kenobi had transitioned into his greatest enemy, he still proved to be a dangerous threat, not because of his inherent power, but because of what he did to the mentality of Vader. Although he respected his performance on Mustafar, he was still not a threat, and Palpatine saw no need to keep track of him. When talking about his own rival and Grandmaster Yoda, it makes sense why Palpatine wouldn't keep track of a lesser Jedi like Kenobi. From a certain point of view, this is what Palpatine has to say about Yoda, and why he never seeks him out. Yoda's escape does not haunt him. He has no regrets that might cause a haunting at all. Sidious won, so obviously he won. Grandmaster Yoda slunk away to hide, and Sidious rose to the apex of the galaxy. Everyone calls him Emperor now. Merely look at any corner of the galaxy as evidence that he won. But all the same, he'd like to end Master Yoda himself, not with his own 2 hands, but with the shock of a red lightsaber. Collect Yoda's little green lightsaber once the green creature was dead, and set it with the others, with all his trophies in the Imperial Palace. It would look like a toy beside the rest of them. It would look useless, silly. There would be no one left to call master but himself. Palpatine has looked. He has sent the Inquisitorius program to seek Yoda's hiding place, made certain that the Hunter probes knew his name and specs. Once or twice, the Emperor even considered various arcane rituals that might instigate some kind of echo or thread in the Force, one that would lead him to Yoda. But Palpatine never performed them. Why bother? Why waste his own power on a mere irritation? Wherever Yoda is, his power is so diminished that he can be no threat to the Empire. So, if this is what Palpatine thought of someone who he considered to be a true rival, this is why he never looked for Kenobi. But this is where things get interesting. His arrogance truly blinded him to this moment. Obi-Wan Kenobi has made a career of a Jedi of those who have underestimated him. And as we have said before, there is a long trail of bones of those who have. And by the end of Return of the Jedi, those bones would even include the Emperor. It would be Obi-Wan Kenobi who would start Luke's journey out as a Jedi. It is the fact that Kenobi has been so underestimated by the Sith that he has been able to excel against them. On paper, Obi-Wan Kenobi is nothing special. His midichlorian count is nothing special. And yet, time and time again, he persists, proves himself to be a worthy threat, a worthy Jedi. To Palpatine, every time Kenobi won, it was a fluke. His own arrogance did not allow him to admit the pure power that Kenobi wielded, the singular mind that defeated Maul, Grievous, and Darth Vader. To Palpatine, Kenobi was so utterly unexceptional that it was only the failings of his underlings that resulted in Kenobi's victory, never Kenobi's own power, his own wit, his own intelligence, and his own skill. To Palpatine, Kenobi is one of many, and while Yoda had proved himself to be massively powerful as the Grand Master, an exceptionally high midichlorian count, Kenobi was neither of these things. To pay any thought to him whatsoever was an insult to the Emperor's own power, or so he thought. And it was this arrogance that would ultimately cause Obi-Wan Kenobi to be one of the greatest threats to the Sith in galactic history. His resolve, his unwavering stance in the light side of the Force, his ability to correct what he has done wrong, unlike Palpatine, where Palpatine makes the same mistake, never going after Kenobi directly, never attacking the Jedi Master one-on-one. It is Obi-Wan that rights his wrongs. He trains Luke in the way that he should have trained Anakin, and in the end, he accepts Anakin's redemption. Had Sidious gone after Obi-Wan directly at any point in time, he assuredly would have killed him. But to go out of his way to kill this single Jedi, all by himself, was too much praise, and the Emperor was too arrogant to grant any Jedi such a gift. But now, my friends, I hope this better highlights one of the most interesting relationships in Star Wars in my opinion, even though the two of them never held a direct relationship with one another. Palpatine underestimating the Jedi Master as much as he did is one of my favorite aspects of all of the lore. But now we have come to the end of today's video, and thank you all so much for visiting the archives today. and may the Force be with you.